Hey, this is Max Alper, aka Peretsky, and you are listening to Group Critique Fight Club. Some fresh tracks in the lobby from Debit, my girl Delia, aka Debit, with their new LP Desaceleradas, as in the de-accelerators, but feminine plural. Some really interesting deconstructions on cumbia and the various Tex-Mex influences that she grew up with. Some good stuff. Good stuff. Welcome. Monday evenings, we chillin', we hanging out, we having a good time. I hope we had a good time last week with Maria. Really such a blast having her in, and so that's going to be the deal. Moving forward on our monthly projects is hopefully every month bringing in a special guest facilitator to, co-facilitate with me and hopefully someone of some accord. So you probably saw we got we have the monthly project for November November through December. Just out now, and I will, for the sake of having it on the record audio format, I will read it off to you. If you give me a second while I load this shit up. Where's it at? There we go. All right. So the monthly project for November through December: speculative media score with guest facilitator Joshua Eustace of Telefon Tel Aviv, OG, long time friend of the show, one of the earliest pod guests that we had on the earliest iterations of the Patreon, all around awesome guy, film composer, and multi-talented producer and technologist. Released several records under the Telefon Tel Aviv moniker, and a great communicator. So they'll be joining us for this one, and I'll just read off the little text prompt here. In recent months, during Group Critique Fight Club, a question has continued to arise concerning our work in progress recordings. In what video game map does your piece take place? It's a great question as it pertains to both a speculative spatiality as far as where our music would best fit, but also under what hypothetical narrative context would it best fit as well. For this monthly project, we are to take this question a step further. You are to musically speculate on a chosen narrative theme for a fictional scene that includes a who, what, where, when, and why. This speculative scene should not come from any pre-existing visual media, though pre-existing fictional text passages are allowed. The scene description should be provided by you in text format, along with the recording itself. There are no genre-specific guidelines for this project, but if you feel the need to include diegetic location recordings, aka field recordings of the space in which you want this to take place, as well as Foley and sound effects, as a means of elevating your score, then you are welcome to provide them as part of the final recording. Recordings should be 5 minutes in duration. Accompanying text should include the story beats if and when an action causes a reaction in the narrative, so that we may mentally contextualize the musical arc to the score, i.e., Odysseus pauses to hear the song of the sirens and turns towards the rocky shores. So we say beats in film term, it doesn't mean musical beats. It means moments that happen that are important, that are causes and effects throughout a scene, actions and reactions, things that wouldn't develop that scene or that story without it happening. Those are the beats, the story beats that need to happen. They're kind of like markers. So be sure to include that if things are to happen. Awesome. So that's the project. Go fucking do it. Joshua Eustace is coming through, and it is due. Did I say when it was due? Due December 15th at 6 p.m. So that's a Monday in December. Yeah, pretty much a month from now. Gonna be good. Yeah. That's in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. Plenty of time. Okay, good. Definitely do that. And what else? Once again, we got 2 presenters, or rather sponsors presenting the show today. We have, once again, Selects For You, our homie at Selects For You on Instagram, curating human curated music for you to check out if and when you need something new to listen to. Follow them at selects.for.u on Instagram. And once again, our homies at Tape Trade for holding it down, providing the infrastructure for us to play back your music on the air in lossless in browser. And with no bullshit, I'm talking about this online this week. I was writing about it a bit, and maybe I'll read off from the digital dub plate mentality little screed that I wrote here. But services like Tape Trade, I think, are going to continue to grow in importance as the need for, honest places to file share are going to become that much more important, and not encouraging the piracy side of it here. There are plenty of other places you could go to share pirated media, but for the sake of sharing our own tracks amongst each other, and for the sake of sharing files to download, specifically within the DJ community and those that are MP3 or wave collectors themselves, I think that this idea of creating something small, creating something community-led, something that we can literally gatekeep our work as far as keeping it away from nefarious actors as much as we choose to. And I think that's a important thing to consider here. I wrote a little bit about that earlier this week, and I'll just read the digital dub plate mentality for y'all, because I think it's important. And I love Tape Trade, but there are plenty of places you can share your media with each other. Tape Trade just happens to be one that won't steal your data. It's really up to you what sacrifices you wanna make in order to, push it on the main platforms, or if you want to keep it small, community-led. There are plenty of options out there, including our sponsors. The digital dub plate mentality. If the main channels of music distribution infrastructure on the internet are going to continue to inshitify themselves to death, the only logical response is to enact a digital dub plate mentality in your community, both IRL and URL. Obviously, anything posted to the internet can be duplicated and scraped compared to the addition of one origins of physical dub plates. But it's the act of making something at a small scale for your friends and community first and foremost that encapsulates the dub plate mentality more than the physical medium itself. DJs of old and new understand this mentality better than anyone for obvious reasons. Dub plates were invented as a means of spinning something at your party that the rival sound system wouldn't have. It was a weapon towards victory in a sound clash. Now our collective rival sound system is streaming culture and data scraping at large, and it's proven itself to not compete in good faith. No matter how many marketing campaigns and playlist curators the streaming platforms throw at us, we know and they know that music culture and cultural capital as a whole trickles upwards to them from the underground, and we can decide how far up the pipeline we choose to let musical subcultures trickle. So we must weaponize the art that we have and refrain from sharing it with those who seek to utilize it in bad faith. And we could do so online by choosing where we distribute our work. Finding your album on a weird corner of SoulSeek is an infinitely larger badge of honor than getting playlisted on Spotify, and you know it. Use a private playlisting or file sharing service and send your demos to friends or post the link directly to your socials. Literally start a small imprint and burn CDs and duplicate tapes of exclusive works in small batches and sell them at your shows for cheap. If you make any sort of club music, you should be sending your WAV files directly to DJs that you admire. That is your dub plate, and it is more powerful than you realize. So that's the digital dub plate mentality, as I'm calling it. I think that it applies to all music here, not just music for clubs. I think that having your own ability to just, control who gets it based on which channels of distribution is really important. And sometimes I think it's much better to keep it small, or at least grassroots, genuinely, not algorithmic. So those are my thoughts on that. Digital dub plate mentality. Everybody should be burning CDs, though. We're bringing that shit back. All right, we got music from y'all. We're going to get to it now. We're going to be starting with a new version of, I believe it's a new version of Panopticon Girl by Eclipse. Right? I think Eclipse, yeah. EclipseXIV. I'm not sure if this is a new track under a similar name. I thought there was one, Panopticon Girl, from last month as well. So this must be a new version of it. Let me get the display up. All right, cool. Panopticon Girl by EclipseXIV. Let's get it. this one. Fucking A. Give that shit up for Eclipse. I don't know if I had said this before, but like, this has, and I mean without exaggeration, like, it's whimsical. Like, it has whimsy to it. Like, it's not, it's on like a level of happy hardcore, but in a like very well orchestrated and effective use of consonants here, and choice of plucky instruments for arpeggiations, and then for something that doesn't have like a lead instrument consistently, there are various earworms that are laid during this. The worms have laid themselves into my brain via my ear canal throughout this, and it's that says something. Because normally I'm always talking about, you need like you need a big melody here. You need a lead monophonic instrument. And oftentimes that's true, but when you write your harmonic parts and your counterpoint parts effectively, which is what you're doing here, like the choice of arpeggiated instruments and then, more sort of padded offbeat things that are happening, the communication between these things, they're all harmonizing with each other despite them being monophonic instruments. These are all harmonic parts, so they aren't like lead melodies, and yet like the way that you've written them and the way that they're arranged, like the choice of instruments that you are using here, it's effective. Like it's there are very memorable parts of this that I think is worth noting here, that I guess you don't always need a big lead in order to make an earworm. I know there was some some interesting comments here in the chat, just going through here, specifically related to like the brightness, and I know Breathplay had done some frequency analysis and saying somewhere in the 500 to 2K hertz range, which is more, mids than what you would consider typically bright. But maybe there is that's a very resonant frequency range here, harmonic heavy, right? And maybe this needs, maybe in the case of your ear, what we're trying to articulate here is not necessarily the shiny brightness of it, but the often harmonic to like or resonant to a potentially overextent, like you're looking at a filter in the mids with the Q a bit too high, that we're starting to get this more sort of harmonic cupping effect, which can work sometimes. But I feel like there might be multiple instruments that are emphasizing that range, and things accumulate, and so you end up maybe on their individual EQs there might be some similar shapes going on, and so you end up with an accumulative, very resonant midsection. If it were the lower frequencies, you would call it muddy, but in the mids here, we're like thinking resonant here. Cuppy is the word I'm coming up with right now, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that ultimately, like dollars to donuts, what oftentimes we do is just exaggerate our individual EQ shapes and forget that each of them are going to accumulate into the master. So I would just use, if you have individual EQ shapes that are similar to each other, that's fine if they're similar. Just like make those peaks less tall, because each of those peaks are adding decibel ranges to those frequency bands, and that stacks on top of each other channel to channel. So just do a little less exaggeration per each EQ, and you'll end up with an ultimately less mid-heavy, heavily resonant middle frequency range, if that's what's going on here. So that would just be my thoughts as far as like Oh, I like that. The glare. That's a good that's a good descriptor there for in the mids. The resonant glare. I like that. Yeah. So just like a little bit less peaky, high steeps in the individual EQs. Karim is asking, it could also be a byproduct of bit reduction. Maybe increase the bit rate on 1 or 2 increments on your plugin to see if it resolves. I feel like I'm hearing bit crushing on your synths. I'm not exactly sure. I thought we were hearing more just like crunchy, square wavy bass on that. Rah, rah, rah. I'm not sure. But yeah, obviously any bit crushing is going to create all sorts of mid and upper partials through the harmonic changes specifically, which does hit a lot in the mids. But ultimately, I think just like rule of thumb is just use less EQ. You know, people tend to just be like, blah, really high valley or low valleys and high peaks. And I think that like ultimately it's just about nudging gently, because everything is accumulative into the master, and that goes for every attribute that you might be using multiple times across various channels, whether it be EQ, gain, or even just the volume itself, right? So it's also a good idea when mixing to mix quiet, turn your headphones, turn your monitors up as loud as you want if you want to listen to it loudly, but keep your channels below zero, like below unity at all times. Everything should be at least -5. You know what I'm saying? Like, use your master bus as the thing that ultimately could boost everything into a nice, dynamic finish as far as like levels go. But like all of those things should be, all of those individual channels should be, give yourself headroom. All's I'm saying. You could make a very red, saturated, gain staged, fucking clipped out signal and not actually have a red channel. You know what I'm saying? It's like waiting to salt your cooking until the end. No. Season individually. Don't just pour it all in at the very end. You have to, while it's braising, it needs that seasoning on there while it braises. And then you flambe it. Someone got to make a music production and audio engineering to cooking analogy cookbook. A 1-to-1 compression recipes. Write them out in the chat. All right, what do we got? Thank you, Eclipse. Thank you. All right, what do we got? From Breathplay, we got a twofer. Working on a mix for a Mixcloud right now, and was hoping to get an A/B test of 2 minute 30 seconds segments of the same portion with different selections. This is the intro, starting with a piece from Maria Chavez's album of stretched out CD glitches, then adding a colorful something on top of it, then dropping an original of mine as the first rhythm. The two options I have for the something are both meant to flag my usual affinity for pop and romance in a dub techno space. My original choice was John Oswald's Madmod, but I fear starting at this level of chaos and high concept might prompt notoriously conservative techno listeners to write me off as unserious or contrarian. Ooh, don't want to make those conservative techno folks mad. The safer choice is a dialogue excerpt from All About Eve, which still works as a thematically resonant signpost for the mix and my whole deal. All caps there. Good. In general. Very good. All right, we're going to hear both versions then. Let's get it.
want it on?
Doesn't matter.
I detest cheap sound. Karen.
No, thank you.
I haven't been very pleasant this weekend.
We've all been a little tense lately.
Come to think of it, I haven't been very pleasant for weeks. For that, I'm truly sorry. More than any two people I know, I don't want you and Lloyd to be angry.
We're never deeply angry. We just get mad the way you do. We know you do.
And so many people know me. I wish I did. I wish someone would tell me about me.
Two versions of a 2.5 minute mix, or rather, two various editions of a similar mix with a little something, as you said, something different there. Personally, I am a fan of the Madmod Oswald version of it, and it's not just because I love the chopping of Madonna in there, but I feel like it gives an opportunity for you to fuck around with the live effects, like to chop it further, you know, like there's no grid in a rigid way at that point. And it would be it would be one of the best opportunities, especially as an introduction, to go ham on the freeze effect, to add and go exaggerate even further on the dub delays here, to really treat the interface as an effects processor, a live effects processor in a more exaggerated gestural way. Because I doubt, I mean, you're obviously going to have more spatial in-between moments throughout the mix, but like this is already on its own like such a extreme, jagged, exaggerated piece, the Madmod John Oswald piece. But it's like, as a DJ set, to me it's like would be the perfect time to I guess complement that jagged, exaggerated cutting with your own take on that as well. Like what can you do to make that section yours in a complementary way, you know? To be damned whatever the fucking, I mean, I feel like if you make it more of a concrete piece in that moment, you might actually get some more conservative techno folks on your side, taking it, you're like, you know, treating it as this collage in a live dubbed sort of way. I don't know. It's to me, it feels like a good opportunity to go in on the effects, as opposed to just letting it play on its own. Like, I think that setting the tone of this as an intro and then bringing out the kicks through this chaos even further, I don't know, would encapsulate the set that much more. I don't know. Compared to the first one that felt more, I don't know, like long form, just hearing the dialogue on its own, it just felt a bit, it didn't feel touched in the way that I want, like, I want your spin on it, you know? I feel like it's too neutral. Going with Oswald is a choice, a bold one. You wrote, the Instagram algorithm found a way to target my insecurities and its influencers sneering about bedroom DJs. Yeah, no, I think the Oswald is more you. I know that there's plenty of you in the choice of dialogue and stuff, but I think that it's too neutral. It's not bland, but it's not sonically enriching necessarily. It might have some thematic stuff, but ultimately I think this should be about how we can maximize the sound here, and to use the plunderphonics, true OG plunderphonics in a DJ mix is a choice, a bold one, and I think that presents an opportunity for you to cut and chop and screw and, you know, fuck with feedback in exaggerated ways, in a way that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do so egregiously in other parts of the set. Yes, it is a hedge. It is a hedge, but we taking risks, dog. I'm feeling bullish about it. I'm not feeling bullish about this market, but I'm feeling bullish about adding plunderphonics to DJ sets. And it's going to pay off, baby. We're doing numbers. Oh my goodness. Bye, bye, bye. Sell, sell, sell. All right, we got one more this evening. Karim is back. Welcome back, Karim. They wrote, realized I've been talking about cycles a lot without ever really showing what I'm interested in doing with it. Here's a one-take improvisation with one of my custom patches. I'm controlling FX sends internal to cycles with the mod wheel and occasionally bending pitch, sending it to 2 delays, 1 only on the highs. The export might be a bit soft, just a heads up. So yeah, Cycles is from Slate & Ash plugin company. Very creative, experimental instruments, sample-based and synth-based, mostly, effects processing of samples in very interesting ways. But some very unique UI. Slate & Ash, check them out. All right, so we got a Cycles Improv from Karim. Let's hear it. Lovely stuff. Give it up for Karim. Very much enjoying this from you. Very much, and I like that Breathplay it mentioned Hiroshi Yoshimura in this, because this is bringing about a very and I've deep Deep Group Critique Fight Club heads know that when I talk about the Japanese aesthetic of negative space, or as they say in Japanese, M-A. It's the term of negative space that dates back to Shintoist text in describing beauty through something and then a lot of nothing. The aestheticization of nothing, of emptiness, of silence, of a blank canvas. It's what makes a Zen garden beautiful, to be able to have just one line and then a lack of activity, neutrality, and then one other small line. And in the case of music, there's plenty of Japanese, not just ambient and synthesizer artists that experiment very consciously with some of these sort of inherently national aesthetics that a lot of, that dates back centuries in Japan. And Hiroshi's one example. Tamio Shiraishi, the free improvising saxophonist, is one. Akio Suzuki, sound artist and performance artist, is another. Folks that experiment with silence and gentleness, or dynamicism for short spurts, and then letting this decay to silence, to negative space. And you're flirting with that here, and I dare to say I think you should be even more patient. Turn the clock even slower. Yeah, exactly. Akio's my boy. Akio Suzuki's the man. I'm getting that here, but I would love to, because it felt like some of the things that happens was like it felt like every time something happened, it was of the same tempo, and I could imagine this fluctuating in tempo and getting even more exaggeratedly slow or spacious, potentially several seconds, 10 seconds of near silence, or just some long decay of air. Also, hell yeah, Robert A.A. Lowe, the homie, longtime homie, very nice guy, and film composer. Oftentimes in his modular, is not just film score works, but solo electronic works. He's another artist that knows how to toy with the silence in a right way. But yeah, I feel like the space is the ethos here. Space is the place. Silence, or activity and lack thereof, this conversation between the two, is what makes a piece like this. And so, when the moment strikes, I feel like getting even more patient, not entirely throughout, but at certain moments, to let it ring out even longer. Let us really sit in silence. Imagining this in a live context, with some sort of creative lighting setup that might be rigged to the sound itself, and to sit in darkness, Autechre style, maybe not complete darkness, but it just, I feel like there are a lot of analogies that we can make towards, visual aesthetics and the usage of light in relation to sound. And obviously hearing sounds like this on a proper system that dissipate all the way down to nothing, and to sit with silence in a room with other people, is very obviously Cagean, and I feel like with a piece like this would bring out something even further. But to allow yourself to get to that level of patience in the studio is also important here. You wrote, the goal is to be able to control a lot of the delay parameters manually and really stretch it out. Yeah, I think doing that by hand, looking into MIDI controller hard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the usage of a hand controller here, something by hand, nothing auto-generated, to allow yourself to exaggerate into potentially much faster regions as well, but all with gentleness. I think the ethos of this is that conversation between activity and lack thereof, sound and silence, but also slow, glacially slow, and potentially fast as well. These are conversations worth having with the parameters of a MIDI controller, and to experiment with this patch specifically. Really lovely stuff. I'm a fan of silence. Big fan of silence over here. Fucking A. You're between a Twister and a Fader Fox stuff. Okay. I haven't messed with either of them. I just use a friggin' iPad. Or a mouse. Nah, but when you're talking about multiple parameters at once, you want to have a proper fader. I'm not overthinking this here when I'm talking about like the amount of parameters you can control. Like delay feedback, delay mix, and clock. Keep it very simple, Don't mess with the verb. Keep that consistent. We're in one space the entire time. Thinking just the amount of delay reflections themselves and the speed in which activity occurs. DJ Hero controller, exactly. Nah, just a PS5 controller. That'll do it. 2 joysticks. Thank you, Karim. All right, you know what? I'm going to present something. I've been working on a few other things, not just Peretsky songs, which I'm doing that too, but been getting back on the field recording and sort of abstraction of field recordings, creative performances, utilizing field recordings as the only source material, and been making some tracks, or rather some studio improvisations, literally just using 2 knobs, if that, or just by mouse as the control apparatus here, while controlling 2 decks of granular processing of field recordings that I'm a fan of. Feel a deep affinity for the source material itself, and that's what makes it special. You gotta have affinity for your samples. You gotta feel something for what you source. So I'll play us out. I don't normally do that, but I'll play us out today for fun, since it's a light one today. This is just something that is going to be a part of someone else's piece, a friend of mine, Omar Ahmad. But he wanted some field recordings processed, and he wanted some voice processed. I don't have the voice recordings attached to this one right now. We're just going to listen to some processed field recordings, because that's my shit. Let's get it. there's that. There's that. What are y'all saying? What are you talking shit? Lovely 3D space you're building out here. That's right. I sure am. Right, the effects make this feel like it's shape-shifting or mutating, even if it's the same recording all the way through, which it absolutely is. 2 decks with the same field recording of me walking very loudly. I think wearing sweatpants. You can hear the with my little phone recorder walking towards a whole gaggle of crows nearby. That was a relatively old recording, kind of going through my old archive here and remembering this just whole lot of crows in the park by my house for some reason. It was very ominous, but it also felt like the recording was very personal because you could hear me kind of rushing towards it so I could get this sound. So myself is there. It's not an ecology recording. There's a whole lot of human noise in this, and that's why I think it's a special one, in that it's a brief diary passage heading towards this thing that I want to capture, and then becoming a part of it, and then throughout, this very patient sort of processing, allowing myself to kind of various mutations, iterations of myself throughout, while maintaining, despite lots of not just granular processing, but sequencing of that, and frequency modulation, that I'm doing all live in an improvised way, very slowly, over 2 separate decks. Despite me doing all these different effects, it's still, I'm very happy with the way it came out, and that it still feels like a real person is there, even though it might be pitch shifted me, or my steps or different things like that are coming from different angles of processing. It still feels like a person, and like a singular person, so it feels very personal in that way, even on a nonchalant level of just, there's all these crows, I want to record them. Like, this is field recording doesn't mean nature. It just means recordings that aren't in the studio, right? And there's so many, we could argue that musique concrète, the earliest origins of, tape music formally, the earliest origins of sampling, even, these things are outdoors. Human beings can absolutely be a part of that, but ultimately it's like the idea of field recording automatically meaning ecological documentation is far-fetched, because ultimately creative composition is at the core of this, and it's a very personal compositional practice of using field recordings as source material. And I think that it speaks on the topic of memory and personal documentation of sounds throughout your life, the way that you do photographs. Great artist, I know we were talking about Akio Suzuki, but another great artist who collaborates with Akio Suzuki is another Japanese artist named Aki Onda, and they have this lifelong project of collecting field recordings via Walkman tape recorder, a very casual and lower fidelity project, but fidelity is not the point. And then to play these as sound masses in a room with 50 tape players with site-specific or speaker-specific, sort of playback mechanisms scattered throughout a room, and just turning them on and off and walking throughout, and that's the performance. And it's this, very sensory-heavy performance, but it's also incredibly personal and intimate when you walk up to one of these things and you're hearing like him as like a teenager or something like that. There's this very personal, vulnerable sort of side to field recording that I think is we should all tap into a little bit. With that being said, this coming Saturday, we have the first of 3 sessions for the field recording field trip, which will take place both online and in person, though you can do it entirely online and make your own, what we're talking about, creative and very personal composition out of a day of field recording. It just doesn't have to be with me personally in person, but you are obviously encouraged to do so. So would love for y'all to get down with that. I've posted about that on the Discord, but the link for that, and I'll just put it here if you want to sign up. I'm asking $100 per person as a let's say like it's a 3-part workshop, so $100 total per person. But if you are looking for a scholarship, please let me know. We can probably work something out. I'm putting this down here, tinyurl.com/fieldrec1. That is the URL if you want to sign up for it, or if you have any questions, hit me up directly. Would love to see you there. But the first day of that is going to be on Saturday, and we're going to be diving into this topic full steam ahead, talking about the history of not only field recording as compositional practice, but tape music at large. It's something that I've deeply passionate about, and have done a whole lot of academic study in, even when I'm writing more formal piano or songwriting stuff, it finds a way in, and I think it ultimately makes even a pop song that much more personal and that much more immersive. So highly recommend y'all signing up, and if you got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. But that'll be this Saturday at noon Eastern, or was it 1 o'clock Eastern? Noon or 1 o'clock, one of the two. Anyways, thanks for hanging this evening. It's been a blast listening to your works. Great jobs. Great work from everybody. Special shout out once again to Selects for You and Tape Trade for supporting the live stream. Don't forget to check out the monthly project for November through December with our boy Joshua Eustace as guest facilitator. Had a really, really good time with Maria, and this monthly project series is another thing I'm deeply passionate about as far as text score compositions, and all working under a single and accessible set of goals. So I hope you're enjoying that series as much as I am facilitating it. So yeah, check it out. Good stuff. Hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. We will be meeting next week, but we probably won't be meeting that following weekend. We'll see. Thanksgiving week, probably not going to take off that Monday, but might take off the Sunday Patreon session. We'll see. Keep you posted. All right, y'all. Have a good evening. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to another edition of Group Critique Fight Club with me, Max Alper, aka Peretsky. You can sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/Peretsky to get access to our Sunday Zoom school on top of the regular live public stream. Public stream takes place every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. All are welcome. And you are listening to the track Atop Alp Dog Mountain, Ja Plays Pokemon Go by me.